Welcome to the Mother Daughter-ish podcast. It's your mama's favorite podcast.
And the podcast your daughter always wanted.
This is Miss Dawn.
And Angelique.
From the 713. Houston, y'all. Get connected and stay connected weekly as new shows debut on Sunday, Wednesday, and please check out our Saturday Out and About showcases.
Enjoy the show. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and tell every woman on the planet that you know about our show.
Here's our show for today. Hey, mothers and daughters, I have a wonderful show for you today, and it's coming from a great place that I've been to before. And my guest today is going to be Miss Karla, and she's going to talk to us about family, food, community, her move. You're going to find out right now where she's from and where she is now. Hi, Miss Karla. Thanks for being my guest today.
Hi, Miss Dawn. How are you?
I'm doing so good. You know, if I was doing any better, I'd probably get arrested.
Girl, I understand that.
So let's talk about it. Where are you from and where are you now?
So where I'm from is I consider myself a third culture kid, meaning that I grew up between two countries. I grew up between Jamaica and the United States.
Okay.
So I call Jamaica home and I call the Chicago area, suburb Chicago home, because that's where I really kind of grew up between the two. Mm-hmm. So I say I'm from both, although I was born in the US, so US is my official nationality.
Where in the US?
So I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Oh, okay. So just up the road from Chicago.
Right. Okay. Well, wonderful. So where are you now?
So I am currently in the United Arab Emirates. Most people think of Dubai or Abu Dhabi. I'm not in either.
Right.
I'm in Ras Al Khaimah, one of the unknown Emirates, which is about an hour and a half north of the Dubai airport.
Right. Because there's 7 Emirates, correct?
Yes, there are.
That is one of the 7, correct?
Yes, and it's one of the most northern ones. We have both the mountains and the beach.
Yes, and the reason I know that is because I read up on it, because on my trip coming back to the United States, I said, I think the next time I come, I'm visiting every single Emirates and I'm going to bring friends. And so when I looked up what the 7 Emirates were, I remember seeing that name on there. That's awesome. Let's talk about how you chose that location. From wherever you moved last from to get to where you are. What was the process of, I think that's where I want to go, as opposed to here or there?
So coming to the United Arab Emirates is a return for me. Mm-hmm. I lived here back in 2007 to 2009.
Okay. Oh.
So for me, I enjoyed my experience back then. And I said, I wanted to return at some point in the future and live here again.
Okay.
So fast forward almost 15 years later, I'm back.
Yes.
And I moved here from the Dominican Republic, where I was being essentially a digital nomad and working remotely for about a year and a half.
Okay. Well, that sounds awesome. So it was kind of like, I've been there before. I think I can live there. Let me go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a return.
Return. I like that word when you say return too. So did you move over there as a married woman or a single woman?
So I moved here single. However, I have been living abroad for 14 years, almost 15 years total, with a 2-year stint back in the United States. So during my time abroad, I have been married and divorced while living abroad. But the last move out of the United States was back in 2012. And so since 2012, I've not lived in the United States. So I've been living abroad consecutively for the past 12 plus years.
That's amazing. So tell me now, you know, the girls want to know, what is it like dating in the UAE? I can tell them from my experience, not the dating part, but the excitement of some things, but I want to hear from you.
So I've been back for a little over a year and a half now, and I've not really hit into the dating scene, to be honest.
Really?
I've been focusing a lot of it's been on work. I have gone out on a date or two.
Yeah. With someone that's from the UAE or someone who's from somewhere else that lives in the UAE?
So someone who lives in the UAE, another expat,
Okay.
So yes, I've not dated a national. So I've not dated an Emirati essentially,
Yeah.
but I've gone on dates with other expats.
Would you say that it would be difficult to date someone that is a native there? And I'm asking that for a reason, and I'll tell you why.
I think it varies on who you are and what your preferences are.
Who they
Um,
are.
who they are. And again, there is a religious context here. So if that is something that is part and important to you,
Yep.
if you are not a Muslim woman, then yeah, you have to be a non-Muslim who's open to dating a Muslim. And there are some who are open to dating non-Muslims, and there are some who are very open to dating foreigners. In many cases, foreigners are their second wives. Let me
Yep.
just be honest.
Yep. That's what I'm
Um,
glad you said it. Now I don't have to say it. Okay.
oh,
It's something that women need to know that, you're in a different country with a different culture and all of that matters. So if you're okay with that, good. If you're not, you need to know.
and that is clearly within the context of Islam, and you need to understand that.
Yeah.
They can have up to four wives. In some cases, they do more than that, but that is what it is. And so typically, they will have a national as their first wife, and they will have a foreign woman of whatever nationality that they resonate with as a second wife or a third wife. And so
Yeah.
you have to be able to
Okay.
understand what that means, navigate that process, know what that means for you, or
Mhm.
if you have children together, what that means for you and your children.
Yes.
Um, know just understand the complexities and the nuances of
Absolutely. Now, have you found that you are interested in that type of situation since you've been there? Like, you know how like
that.
you go
So,
there and maybe you don't agree with something, but then you've been there for so long and you're like, well, it's just a part of the culture. Okay.
oh, reading me like a book. So, funny enough, the UAE didn't do that to me. I have lived in four Islamic countries. So, that is a nuance in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I've lived in 11 countries, including the United States. I've worked in 7 countries, including the United States. So
Okay.
living in 4 Islamic countries with 4 different contexts of Islam, I've over the years learned a lot.
Yes. Okay.
And so I am open to unique situations that I wasn't open to when I was living in the United States.
Right, right, right.
Um, I won't say yes and I won't say no. I would say this is something that I need to process through and figure out if it's right for me.
Exactly. I said the same thing. I said, as an American and living in the United States, by the way, I live in Houston, Texas. By
Okay.
living in the United States, I asked myself, would this be something that I'd ever be interested in? And myself said, no, we wouldn't do this in the United States. But then I said, when I was over in the Middle East, I said, would this be something that I could do? And myself said, yeah, we could do it. But if we're going to be the third or fourth wife, we'd have to have our own house.
It's
That's
quite
and that's the
interesting.
only way I thought I think I could do it, but I'd have to have my own freedom, which, I'd have to have my own home, which and I'm not interested in having any children because I'm not that age anymore. So I thought to myself, I love the people. I love the atmosphere. I love the vibe. The vibe is very high. And so again, there's some things that depending on where we are in the region, if we would consider it or not, which I find to be very interesting, with our brains that we would never do it in this place, but we could consider it there. But again, that's adjusting to the culture, You can't blame a culture for what they do. That's why when I hear people saying, oh, that's ridiculous. Oh, I wouldn't be wife number 8 or I wouldn't do, I'm just like, you've never been there. You don't know what you would do. Go visit and make those decisions from a different area and see what you come up with.
Yeah.
It's all
And
this.
I'm actually going to throw another context in there.
Yeah.
We come as melanated people that have African origin, we come from an origin that has multiple wives, anyways.
Exactly.
And it's not always, in some cases, it's been, for example, The brother marries the brother marries the wife of the deceased brother in
Right,
order to
because they
bring
want
her
to make
into
sure
the
that the wife
family
is
and
still taken
protect
care
her
of.
and protect her
Yes,
children.
I was explaining
And
that
she
to
becomes
someone.
a second wife.
Yeah,
And so there is ancestral lineage that sits within us
yeah,
of this nature.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it is currently still practiced in some contexts, in some places, and in several countries.
Very true.
So whether it's in the Middle East or on the
Or
continent
Honduras, they do it in Honduras.
or in some parts of Central America and South America, it is there. And you have to decide for yourself, is that something that resonates with
Yeah,
you?
that's right.
And what parts of it do, and how would you go about it? And you negotiate accordingly.
Got it. Now you said since you've been back in a year and a half, you're just kind of working on you and taking care of yourself and just not really worried about the dating scene right now, right?
Yeah, like I said, I've gone out on a date here or there, but
Yeah.
it's not my key focus.
Got it. Understand. Now, let's talk about community. You said that you've lived in over 11 different countries. How are you building community where you are? Because are you in a smaller area right now?
So Ras Al Khaimah is smaller. Um, I would say that the majority of my community comes from within my workplace, so contextually there.
Mhm.
We have a group that we go out to brunch.
Oh, good.
I have built relationships with a couple of my colleagues across campus, and we do a
Okay.
variety of things. I have met, like people here in my building. I met another Jamaican woman in my building, and she and
Oh,
I are planning to
good.
get together.
Okay.
Um, so it varies. And my community is now global.
Mhm.
um, I keep up with, friends from all over the world. I actually, have gone to, it's now Ramadan here. So I've gone to iftar dinner with someone that I met at a conference because we're in student affairs.
Okay.
We had spent years working together. We presented together at our annual conference for years. They now live here, and I went to iftar dinner with them, so community becomes who you make it and who's with you, and realize that you're transient. Um, and I will speak for me. I'm very transient
Okay.
because I've lived in a lot of countries. So I keep my contacts in my community phone, WhatsApp, um, you know, the video calls, all of that stuff. Um, Ramadan started and I was sending out probably 10, 15 Ramadan messages to 4 different countries
Oh,
to
wow.
colleagues and friends that I have
Right.
in different places, because I know that they're Muslim and Ramadan started, and I want to wish them a happy Ramadan.
Right. Well, that's very nice. So I like what you said about community is what you make it. Let's talk about family because you left your family everywhere that you've created a family, whether it was your biological family or family that you've created. How do you stay in touch with your family? And when's the last time you've come back to the US to visit maybe the family that was in Milwaukee area?
So my family's no longer in Milwaukee. My mom lives in Florida.
Okay. Oh, you
Um,
went to the sunny skies.
and
Okay.
so typically I come home once a year.
Okay.
And I typically what I've done is paired that up with a conference I went to. So last year, March, I was home. I was at my student affairs conference. I work in student affairs at the university
Okay.
in Seattle. And then I flew cross country to Florida and spent some time with my mom, and then flew back.
Okay.
But we are on phone calls,
WhatsApp.
some of my closest friends in the US, we're phone calls, we're video calls,
Hmm.
um, things of that nature. And it's the same for my global family of choice.
Hmm.
We're sitting on, like you and I right now, or we're doing the WhatsApp messages, or we're doing the voice notes to each other. So we find the ways to keep in contact with each other, check in. It's like, I haven't heard from you. What's going on? I need proof of life.
Now, do you have any children?
No.
Okay, so I won't ask the question about school and all of that because, for those that have
Yeah.
moved with their children. Have
Yes, I am
children.
a childless woman roaming the world.
Wonderful. Hey, sounds like bliss to me. Sounds like pure bliss. Let's talk about food. I enjoy eating when I come to the Middle East, and I've not had a bad experience. So let's talk about food for you because now you've been in 11 countries, so you've really gotten to really try a lot of great different things. What's your favorite in the UAE that you like right now?
Oh my gosh. So right now it's Ramadan, and the amount of dates and the types of dates that happen because everyone breaks fast with dates and water at sunset. So there's all kinds of dates around. So I've been, doing that. And then there's fresh dates that just literally come off the tree.
Yes,
Just
I had
amazing.
some when I was there. Even had
Um,
covered in chocolate.
yes, yes. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I have favorite foods.
Okay.
I
What about like a particular favorite meal? Like,
okay, so I'll say favorite dessert. I
okay.
like Omali. Ali. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But it is a traditional dessert here with phyllo dough and raisins made with milk, and it's just yummy because it all like melts together and it's warm.
Okay.
So that's one of my favorite desserts whenever I'm at a restaurant or it's on a buffet. I
Okay.
typically get that. Um, the kebabs that are
Uh-huh.
done here, nicely spiced and seasoned, are another thing. I'm a fish and chicken girl, so the chicken kebabs are. I can eat those all the time, anytime.
Right, right, right. Wow.
Um, Oh my gosh. I mean, I love food. So I'm, whether it's sushi, whether it's Indian, whether there's really good Indian food here too, because
Hmm.
there's a
Hmm.
large Indian population here. So a lot of that Indian food here tends to be very authentic. So that's another bonus of being here. It's such a multicultural country that you can find very authentic foods from whether it's Lebanon or Jordan or Turkey or Morocco. You just find the right spot, and yeah. And then there's also the fast food that's here from the US.
Right. You know what I really loved about being in the Middle East was all the fresh juices.
Yes,
All the fresh juices.
you name it, they juice it.
I know, and I'm telling you, I was naming it and they were juicing it because I love fresh juice anyway. So, oh, boy, that right there can be my favorite because I can do that all day long and just be happy. Okay, so let's talk about work. Now, notice that you said that you work in student affairs. Is that kind of what has taken you around the world, or did you do something new?
No, my career in higher education has taken me around the world. So it's been student housing, moving into student affairs, moving into senior leadership opportunities around the world. So I consider myself a career expat. I have intentionally used my career, my skills, my talents, my expertise in my career field
Hmm.
to navigate the world and live in the countries that I've lived in.
Wow.
I've
So,
also done a bit of digital nomading.
okay.
Um, that my digital nomad space has been either to build my company or to work remotely as a consultant.
Okay, so when you're doing your consulting, is that through student affairs as well?
So my consulting is in the student affairs study abroad area.
Mhm.
It's in education, so higher ed, secondary ed, working with you know projects, things of that nature.
Okay.
And then the coaching piece is to help career expats, so career professionals who want to live and work abroad,
Okay.
figure out how they get that start
That's
because
wonderful.
it's something I didn't have when I did this.
Exactly. No support. So let me ask you, you said you've lived in 11 countries. Can we explore what they were?
Sure.
Okay.
So, born in the US, lived in Jamaica, moved
Okay.
back to the US.
Oh, can you
And
tell me how long you lived at each location? So
oh,
Jamaica.
Lord, So I spent my childhood in half of my childhood in Jamaica, maybe a little bit less than half. So I spent about 9.5 years living in Jamaica as a child.
Okay.
Uh,
So US
and
to
then,
Jamaica.
yep. And then spent my teenage years and then took my first job abroad and moved here to the UAE where I spent 2 years.
Okay.
And then came back home to the US for 2 years.
Okay.
Then I left and moved to Afghanistan and lived in Afghanistan for about 14 months
13 months.
working in
Okay.
higher education. So just
Okay.
in case anyone questions why was she in Afghanistan, I worked at a university in Afghanistan.
Okay.
Went from Afghanistan to the Commonwealth of Dominica, where again, higher education. Went from the Commonwealth of Dominica
How long in
to
Dominica?
uh, about a year and a half.
Okay.
Then I went to Singapore.
Ooh, I like Singapore. I love that. So nice
Yes.
and clean.
And I spent little three.
Your volume went out. No volume. No volume. No volume. You there?
Hello?
There you go. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So what was the last one? Singapore. And how long did you stay there?
Singapore through like 3 years and 10 months.
Okay. And then,
And then I switched off and went to being a digital nomad for about a year.
okay.
And I lived between Indonesia and Malaysia
Ooh,
for
I love
that year.
those two places too.
And I from
Now, when you
that
went to Malaysia, were you in Kuala Lumpur?
I was just outside the city. So I
Okay.
was in the suburbs of Kuala Lumpur,
Okay.
in Malaysia, and then I was in Bali in Indonesia.
Okay.
From there, I went and lived in Bangladesh in 2020. So that was the beginning of the pandemic,
Yes. How,
and spent
how
part
long
of
did
the
you stay?
pandemic in Bangladesh for about 9 months.
Okay.
Moved from there to Niger in West Africa, not Nigeria,
Right.
Niger, or
Niger.
Niger, as some
Yeah.
people will call it.
Yes.
Lived there for roughly a year,
A year. Okay.
then went to the Dominican Republic
Dominican Republic.
and spent a little over a year and a half there.
Okay.
And now I'm in the UAE.
I tell you, that is an amazing roster. You have been to some amazing places. So I know that you've been able to build a wonderful group of community of people that you keep in touch because this list here is an all-star list. At least to me, because I've been
Thank
to
you.
half of those places. So it's like, oh yeah, I know that. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So I'm just like, oh, that's exciting to be able to do that. Now, let me ask you this. Is the UAE the end all be all, or are you going to be going somewhere else?
I will transition at some point. Don't know when.
Right.
I'm not sure that this is the permanent spot.
Got it.
I feel that I live my life based on my purpose, and part of that has to do with my job and my work.
Okay.
My work and my purpose is to give back to the international community when it comes to education.
Mm.
In the context that so many young adults want to come to the United States for an education, it's a dream. And
Right.
that's not always possible for a variety of reasons. I mean, and we can run down the list.
Yeah.
And as someone who's worked in the United States, studied in the United States as 2 degrees, I have the opportunity to go and share what is considered a student-centric, student affairs type style of education. Because I occasionally teach when I'm abroad, so I'm in the classroom, but I tend to do the student affairs thing things, the student development, the student leadership, the co-curricular programming, build student leaders,
Mhm.
develop student leaders, and do all those things that are not always part of other educational systems and structures. And so, having worked in the British model, the French model, and then those models are contextual to the countries that they're in because those are, in many cases, former colonies of France or Britain or
Mhm.
whoever. I then bring another dimension when I bring US style student affairs to
Mhm.
the table, and institutions that are seeking some of that as part of their transformation or part of their growth or part of their startup.
Got it. Oh, I think that's so fabulous. I think it sounds like you're having a really great time. And the fact that you're taking the time to work on yourself and where you're going to be headed. I love that you said living your life on purpose, and it depends on what your purpose is, because that's a very important. So I'm glad that you figured that out. That's awesome. That's really
Thank
awesome.
you.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us, especially anyone who's thinking about making a move there or with your services that you offer? Is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Sure. I think a couple key things. One, if you're planning to make a move, whether you're being a digital nomad, you're being a professional, you're doing a business, spend some time visiting if you can.
Hmm.
However, visiting a country and living in a country long term are not the same.
That's right.
When
Absolutely.
you're in a country long term, you're dealing with the everyday, daily routine of that country,
Hmm.
whether the lights go out, whether it rains and floods like it does here when it rains heavy, because this is sand, whether that is you live in the region of the Caribbean where there's tropical storms and hurricanes and you have to make sure you're prepared for that.
Like in Houston. Hmm.
Whether you live, in the tropics where, it's heat and humid, whether you live in an area that was originally perfectly safe and now there's political unrest, you have to think about what are the daily routines of the country you're in and what that means for you.
And that's different than
Um,
vacation.
it is different than vacation. The paperwork that you have to do is different than vacation.
Vacation.
The
That's
bills you have to pay are different than vacation.
You are so right about that. Speaking of bills over there, is it pretty affordable in that part of the Emirates? Because some part of the Emirates are a little bit more expensive than others. So is it pretty
Yes.
affordable to live? Okay.
Yeah, so
So,
Ras Al Khaimah is pretty affordable. It's one of the more affordable Emirates. And it's interesting because we do have people that have been slowly moving here from other Emirates. I won't name them, but I'll,
yeah,
I'll just
of
say
course,
other Emirates.
of course, of course.
Um, and so the Emirates growing. There's lots of construction, especially around housing here right now.
Oh, I saw it. I was like, man, I thought we had so much construction in the US, but when I was over there, I was like, it's everywhere. Qatar, everywhere. Dubai, everywhere. Bahrain, everywhere. There was literally a construction job happening. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna
Mhm.
stop complaining at home because it's everywhere. But in order to grow, they've got to build up. So I get it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so
And I
much.
think the other thing that I really want folks to know is your skills are assets in other places.
That's right. That is so right.
So while you have a skill, you have an expertise, you have degrees, you've spent years, working in nursing, accounting, tech, whatever it may be, teaching,
Mhm.
that skill could potentially be in demand in some other country.
Okay.
And you can use that skill set and that expertise to be your launch pad to get to wherever you want to go, or to get to there to then get to where you want to go. So sometimes you have to go to an intermediate to get to your long-term spot.
You are
And
absolutely
I
right.
encourage people to do that because it comes with a benefit. If
Hmm.
you are hired by a company, there are things that come with that, such as your visa and your immigration things that they help you with. Some things like housing that they'll help you navigate or even provide you. So there's some benefits that come with being employed as your leap out.
That's
And
awesome.
then once you're out, you can figure out what you want to do. You want to stay employed? You want to go digital nomad? You want to go slow traveler?
Right.
After you've out and you've navigated that space.
That's awesome. Man, those are two great points that you just made because that last part, super, super important because the two things that I hear people will ask me about, because I'm a traveler. So when I meet people, I'm like, where are you from? We get to talking.
Mhm.
Women will tell me, I want to move to such and such, but the women will say, I don't think I'll be able to find a husband, or I may not be able to find somebody to date. And I don't necessarily, want to have to date another expat because they may be just going through a transient, they just may be going through, and I'm there to live permanently. The other thing they go, well, I can't seem to find a job online where I can do it digitally or virtually, and my job won't transfer me there because they're just not going to do that. And then I'm afraid to try to go there and then find work, even if I save up enough money to stay for 6 months. I'm scared to go there and try to find work because maybe they only want to hire their own within. And I'm like, all the questions that these women ask me, I say, go and find out for yourself. Go and research, talk to other people, talk to other nomads, join nomad groups on Facebook and Instagram, and just ask questions. I'm in so many different nomad groups, and I just talk and have conversations, ask questions. If I'm going to visit there, like, for example, if I'm going to visit a location and I know I've spoken with somebody from there online, I'm like, hey, I know you guys have a nomad group there. I'm going to be visiting this week through this week with like 6 other people. We'd love to connect with y'all. Like, that's the type
Mhm.
of person I am. So I tell people, you know what? You're going to have to sometimes actually go and do the footwork yourself. And you can't
You
always
got
tell.
to build that community.
You have to build that community if it's what you really say that you really want to do. And if you want to make that transition, you're going to have to put the work in to figure out how to make
Mhm.
it work for you. Because it's not going to, same thing, not going to work for everybody, but you have to do what works for you, especially the ladies that come to me who have small children that are like elementary age or middle school or something like that. I'm like, you got to figure that out. And a lot of ladies have said, hey, I'm moving to this country. My teenage son doesn't want to go, so he's going to stay back. And I'm like, you got to figure out if you can do all of that like that. So it's figuring out
Mhm.
all of these things. And it seems that you have figured it out, lady, because you have been to some amazing places and met some amazing people. I just guarantee that you have really met some great people. And I love that you're continuing
I've
to.
met some people along the way and it's been good. And I want to say that if you are a career professional and you are looking to figure out how to get started, please reach out to me. I do have and have built a business around trying to help. I started out just helping higher ed, and now I've expanded into helping other areas because I do have, initial knowledge that to get you on your path, to get you started. And so you can find me at thecareerexpat.com.
Okay.
And
Make sure
so
you
you
send
can
me the
find them.
links to everything too, and I'll put it down in the description bar, and then they can just click there and go and connect with you. Because even myself, I was speaking with someone when I was in the Middle East, and we just happened to be talking. I signed up to go to a meetup thing with some professionals that are expats, and they were talking about, because I was telling them what I do, and they said, well, you could get some speaking engagements over here, and you could do this, and I'm just like, yeah, but you got to almost be connected to be able to do that because I wouldn't know who to reach out to. I would know where to go because I could just do the research, but sometimes it's a referral that could help you to get to
Mhm.
those places. So I tell speakers all the time, if you want to go speak in Indonesia, do it. I did it. If you want to go speak in Ireland, do it. You got to figure out how to do it. I've done it. So it's like when I get an opportunity to go to a different country and speak, especially if I'm developing and helping individuals who are entrepreneurs, that's like my jam right there because I travel so much and I see a lot. And then I've been a speaker for over 27 years. So it's just like, man, to be able to go to another country and do it would just, light me up as well. So that's awesome that you can share that. All right. Well, thank you, Miss Karla, for being on my show today. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Miss Scott. It was a pleasure.
I can't wait to
I
share your link. I
big one.
cannot wait to share your link. And I'm going to be looking at it myself to see if there's anything on that list that like, well, let me ask her about that.
No worries. Yes. And so I'll share the website, and I have a couple, do-it-yourself planners that you can just purchase from Etsy and get yourself started without even having to talk to me. So I'll share that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Miss Karla.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye bye. Good night to you. Bye bye.